Well, back in 71, April 27th, if I'm not mistaken, there was a riot. What happened, the powdered eggs that they were serving the inmates for some reason were bad, and the inmates started protesting. In the East Wing, they jumped, the officer took his keys. And in the old jail, you went by sound. You knew there was a problem. So we went running from the North Wing, the West Wing, into the East Wing. We got up to the third level, and they had let all the prisoners out on the fourth level, and they started coming down at us. And we were able, they took one officer hostage, Pete Trezano. One inmate who was in for homicide, they called him Tex. He saved his life. You know, they threw him in a cell, and they wanted to beat him up, and Tex stopped them from beating him up. So when Tex came up for trial, Pete went and testified in his behalf. It had spread to the other wings, and when we came into the East Wing, the prisoners were hitting us with a fire hose from the West Wing. You know, and like I said, the water was about a foot deep, and then we had to battle our way all the way up in the East Wing, then we had to go to the West Wing, and so on and so forth.
But initially you responded to this without any weapons, without any sort of ways to protect yourself at all if someone came at you?
Not at that time, no, until we were able to get back out and then got helmets
Right.
and nightsticks and all.
And was that equipment on site, or did someone have to bring that from somewhere else?
No, it was in the front office area in the armory.
And did that include guns?
Yeah, but we didn't bring guns in.
Okay. What sorts of things did you see prisoners sneak in over the years, or make while they were there?
In your shoe, there's a steel shank, and a lot of them used to take that steel shank out and make weapons out of it. You know, file it down on the stone and make a weapon out of it. There was one incident. It wasn't related to that jail, but I remember one time they took the handle of a paint can and ground the tip down to a real fine point, and they stabbed the guy in the heart. And the guy he thought he just got punched, but it penetrated his heart. So he thought, he got punched and he got the wind knocked out of him. When they took him to the hospital, he eventually died.
Right.
And then they found out that it was a puncture wound.
Oh boy. So these weapons that that the inmates kind of crafted out of whatever they could get their hands on, were they for defensive purposes or for offensive purposes?
Both.
So if someone wanted for an offensive purpose, would it be to rob somebody else or settle a grudge, or?
Well, yeah, there's been many an instance where that was, the thing is, in that jail, cigarettes were like money. And if you borrowed a cigarette, then you had to pay back two. And a lot of times the guys didn't have the cigarettes to pay back. And there was all kind of altercations.
Right. How were the inmates, how did they separate themselves out in terms of, I realized that they would be on wings and they would be separated out by their offenses, but in terms of their interpersonal relationships, did they separate themselves out through any gangs or religions or particular ideologies, or wasn't there that much of that then?
Well, yeah, back then you had what they called jailhouse Muslims. They were they stuck together. Then you had a lot of guys that were in jail that had a lot of acquaintances from the streets. It was like all home reunion week.
Right.
So you had that.
Right. Was the food decent?
I wouldn't call it gourmet, but it was edible.
But there were problems with it sometimes.
Yeah.
Like 3 meals a day and that's it?
Well, they had, I don't know what the midnight shift fed them, but during the lunch period, that's when they got their hot meal. At night, they got a sandwich. If a guy went to court, and he missed his hot meal, the officer at the back of the wing sheet would indicate, courts, and then list the inmates that were at court during the hot meal, so they would get a hot meal at night. because at the courthouse they had sandwiches they gave them there.
Right. Right.
So that would be actually reversed.
right.
But the hot meal was served during the lunch period at the jail.
So you mentioned before that they got periods each day to go and outside and walk.
Just on the tier, not outside the
Okay,
building.
on the tiers. Was there anything else for them to do?
No,
No.
not in that jail, no.
How did that go over? I mean, were there ever any calls for recreation or
No.
books or to read or
No, not really.
no? Yeah, it seemed like maybe it was a style of jailing that carried over from previous years. Because now you go to jail, you can go to college.
Yeah.
You know. So you recall two particular inmates. Any other vivid memories of things that may have happened that stick in your mind, that either with people or with incidents, or what about visitors? I mean, they had visitation rights, right?
Visiting hours were Tuesdays and Saturdays. Homicides only had visits Saturday morning. Regular visits were in the afternoon, but the homicide visits were Saturday morning only.
Okay, and if I came to visit an inmate there, I would be seeing them through a window
Screen.
or a screen, and I could talk to them without a phone. I would just one-on-one. And how long would I have to talk?
Generally 20 minutes.
20 minutes, and it would be someone there watching or not? Or
No,
someone
you
in
went
the
into
area?
you went into what they call the center of the jail, and it's all screened off, and there's a space. You're on one side, the screen, and then on the other side, about a foot in, there's another screen, and the mesh is real fine. So you're on the one side, and the inmate's on the other side, and you just converse through the screen.
And the mesh was so fine, there was no way for someone to pass anything.
No, nothing.
Did visitors often try to pass something to
No.
try to get? Were there things that were snuck in?
Not really. No, not that I can
No,
recall.
okay. Did inmates often try to get favors from the guards?
Oh yeah, they
Well,
always try that.
What did they want? Cigarettes?
Basically, yeah. Or back then, the Afro comb was popular. You know, if you could get them an Afro comb and all. And I told them, you know, if you can support me for the rest of my life, I'll gladly bring one in for you. Because I'm not about to get fired because you want an Afro comb.
Right, which they could use as a weapon.
Right.
Yeah.
Because they knock the teeth off and then they have like a shank.
Yeah, right. What about radio, TV? Nothing. No
Nothing.
music at all. No.
Well, on the weekends, they generally